Hey everyone, my name is Chris and you are watching League Insights. This is my first VOD review and today we'll be covering LCS Spring Playoffs Quarterfinal Game 1 between C9 and TSM. Before I start looking at the pick and ban, a bit of background about myself. I'm a Master Tier player and I have some experience playing in ULOL, previously known as NACC. Alright, let's go straight into it. So C9 first bans Corki because it's a pretty popular ban on blue side. It's a flex pick for AD carry in mid, so if red side gets it, then they can just hold on to that and then use their fifth pick to pick either leave Corki in the mid lane or pick a counter pick mid for whatever C9 picks. And both Bjergsen and Double Lift have played in the past. On TSM side, they banned Nidalee because Rush is known for playing Nidalee, Lee Sin, very aggressive early game junglers. On C9 side, they banned Graves because Svenskeren has played a lot of Graves and has done pretty well on it. It's also just a very strong pick right now. And TSM is also targeting High's champ pool because he's played 9 games of Morgana this split and done very well on it in all of the games. And C9 finishes off their bans with Gragas, which is again another popular pick by a lot of teams, and Svenskeren has played it a lot as well. TSM bans Lee Sin at the very end to put Rush on a different jungler that's not Nidalee or Lee Sin, and they just first pick Kindred, which is a very popular high elo pick and competitive pick. So here TSM is able to pick 2 high priority champions. In my opinion, they should pick their jungler because C9's already showed theirs, and get a priority pick for one of their solo lanes or maybe a support that they want. They probably didn't expect Rush to play much Kindred because he hadn't played much before, but there's a 2-week break and Kindred is just very strong in 6.6. Instead of actually picking up their jungler, though, TSM picked up Poppy and Azir. Azir was out of the meta for a while, but has risen back to pro play because he's just really good at sieging and pushing, has a lot of pressure in the mid lane. Very safe laner, too, against most matchups. And Poppy is just top tier still in 6.6, and Hanser's played it in the past. So while they pick up 2 really good champions, I don't think that they had to necessarily get the Azir initially because Jensen might play Azir, but Bjergsen probably has an answer to Azir, and so they could have just waited on that and picked up Elise or a jungler that they think it matches up well against Kindred's early pressure. But C9 on the other hand picks up Gangplank and Braum in one go. Balls is a very proficient Gangplank player, has played it a lot, and High's also played Braum before, but the reason these 2 picks are good when they're picked together is because Braum is a pretty popular support to counter Gangplank because a lot of Gangplank's team fighting comes from popping barrels. What Braum does is he just walks up, puts up his shield, and can block the Q that Gangplank uses to proc the barrels, and negates a lot of his team fighting ability. So they steal that away. And also Yellowstar has played most of his games this season on Alistar and Braum, so this forces Yellowstar onto Alistar. And TSM picks their bot lane, which again is confusing to me because unless they have some really special jungle pick in their pocket, there's no need to go for that, although they probably just want to pick up Kalista because they think it's strong right now. I don't really like Kalista right now. After 6.6, she's very dependent on staying with her support. She's even weaker than she was before without her support with her. And she still has a lot of her strengths, right? She has her ult to save her support or engage with, has a lot of kiting potential, but is just a little bit weaker than she was before. But TSM is going for this strategy, so let's see where it goes. And C9 picks up Lucian, really great matchup into Kalista, just very strong meta pick right now, and picks up TF for Jensen, which is, I think, one of his most played champions this season. If not, he's played it before, definitely, and C9 likes that composition where they have two globals with Gangplank and TF ults. It's really strong. He can put pressure around the map, whereas Azir usually just stays in the mid lane. And TSM rounds out their composition with Elise in the jungle. So if we look at the team comps and what each team wants to do, C9 definitely has a lot of priority on putting pressure throughout the mid game, using their globals to their advantage and forcing TSM into bad situations. And TSM, on the other hand, has a lot of late game power with their Azir and with their Kalista, but they didn't get any counter picks in the other lanes, so it's Poppy versus GP isn't too great for Poppy, but we'll see how it plays out and look at what each team wants to do here. So I'm just going to skip to the beginning of the game. Okay. Nothing special in terms of invades. They just do a 5-ward start where they get wards here, 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 and here, and put the mid laners in the middle just to make sure there's nothing tricky or any invades. Because of this, TSM is able to send their duo top without C9 really having that information. So they're lane swapping. If you look at the junglers in the top lanes on each side, Rush and Balls are starting on the top side, and Sven and Hanser are both starting on the bot side. This way, they can start and just take a camp there and then move over to the strong side where they have their duo bot lane. So both of the junglers get invaded on, but they pick up the camps anyway, except Sven gets the whole Gromp, and Rush only gets a big wolf and, yeah. Looks like Alistar got both of the wolves there. Wait, let's go back right here for a second. This shouldn't happen. High invades onto Sven and Hanser, who are still on this side of the map, whereas if you look at Rush, he just did his wolf camp and then went straight to strong side of the map for them. But Sven and Hanser are still here, which is fine, but Sven should be able to last hit that. He mistimes his Q and does it too early, doesn't calculate the damage, so High just picks it up, which is a lot of EXP that he lost. So that is definitely something that he should watch out for. Hanser is still double jungling with Svenskeren, but Balls has already made his way down to the bot turret to 3-man push, while Rush is still jungling by himself. So TSM's a little bit slower on the turret push right here, which doesn't make too much of a difference, but just something to keep in mind. So just to recap, Rush has taken his wolves, his wraiths, and his red buff, and is now moving up to take blue buff, whereas Sven has taken Gromp, didn't get the big wolf, went for wraiths, and is going for Rush's blue buff. So they're just trading here, it's pretty standard. Sven finishes a bit earlier than Rush though, goes to Gromp. So he gets more. Well, if he got his wolf, he would have gotten more. C9 finishes off the turret. You see Hanser here still has a ways to go on it, but he's denying the CS there anyway. He's just gonna let all of it die, or most of it die to the turret. Sneaky and High already got a quick back, so Sneaky's making his way up to the top lane to push that. And you can see Double Lift heading down here. He wasn't able to get the turret gold. And right here you can see Double Lift and Yellow Star going bot, but somehow, for some reason, they change their mind when they're already like a third of the way down there, and they start hitting top, presumably to just let Hanser 1v1 balls and Double Lift and Yellow 2v2 against Sneaky and High. But it doesn't make much sense because they had vision on Gangplank, so I guess they don't want to trade turrets. C9's up for like 400 gold right now just from balls having more CS than Hanser. Jungle maybe a little bit more, but most of it's about the same. So they had some early leads. And so we see Rush being aggressive, invading up towards Svenskeren, getting some damage on him. And so we have 3 people on C9 versus 3 people on TSM, but it's still really early into the game, and that's Balls and Jensen are both TPing in here, whereas Hanser just keeps his, doesn't seem to think it's worth it. So it's going to be a 5v3 under this turret right here. And the problem is that they Rush High and Sneaky start damaging them before either of their solo laners have TP'd in. And so they're already tanking, but they're not going to get enough damage on them quickly enough. So they're taking turret damage, and it's going to be a really difficult dive for them. You can see Rush over here takes 3 shots, then Balls takes aggro, takes 1, 2, and then the third turret shot queued up on him, so he wasn't able to get out in time. The turret range is kind of difficult for him to see, but he definitely didn't manage to aggro there properly. So Double Lift actually gets first blood, and Sneaky finishes off, Sneaky finishes off Yellow Star. And Rush flashes out here. I think Double could have flashed after him, definitely picked up that kill too, but it's not a big deal. High flashes too. And so if you look at the overall summoner trade, you got heal from Double Lift, exhaust, sums from Alistar, but you got suns from High, flash from Rush, and balls, and 2 TPs. If we go back and look at what Bjergsen and Hanser are doing during this, Bjerg is just pushing in the middle lane. Hanser is just farming at his turret. Bjergsen actually starts walking up for a bit, but then realizes that he's not going to get anything, so then he just walks back. In my opinion, that was pretty bad by him. He should have just kept pushing. He could have denied Jensen more CS, probably, if he just shoved in at first. But overall, you see C9 had like a 400 gold lead, and now they're like tied up with TSM, and they used both of their teleports, which is pretty bad. So overall, pretty bad call by C9. If they wanted to make it work, they should have made sure that those 3 players from TSM couldn't get out, and TP'd in, and then started taking damage once the solo laners had already landed and arrived. And so you can see that TSM and C9 are both keeping their bot lane top and just the Poppy and GP 1v1. But look at how big this wave is. The reason this wave is so big is because Balls TP'd top, but Hanser was just farming a turret and was just probably last hitting, but he didn't actually deny GP any CS, or like very little CS, even though Balls was out of lane for maybe almost 2 minutes. So that's pretty bad because Poppy should definitely have an advantage. She has both summoners up still. TSM's not really playing around that, or whether it's Hanser's fault for not TPing in, or whether TSM's not making any calls. They're just not doing very much with that. What they could do right here is they could send Svenskeren bot to try and pressure Balls off of that huge minion wave. He doesn't have flash. Both Sven and Hanser have flash. They could probably pick him up, but they're not going to do that. They're going to go topside with... And I'm not sure exactly what TSM is doing here, because it's okay to have your duo bot top, but you don't constantly have to go there if you're not going to... You don't have to put your jungle pressure there if you're not going to take any turrets or objectives. You can see Hanser actually right here pinging the bot lane for assistance, or saying that maybe there's something they could do because Balls is just freezing that huge wave, and Haunter has to stay over there. But TSM is putting Sven on top side, so and you can see that Haunter is falling behind in CS. Alright, over here, an interesting strategy by TSM. Their bot lane, or their duo, just recalls from the top lane and is heading down mid right now. So they're trying to set up something on Cena. They're trying to set up something on Jensen. And if you look at the ward coverage by both teams, TSM has some pinks down, but not really like very well coordinated. Whereas C9 is putting all of their pinks near the mid lane. And what this does is it gives Jensen a lot of freedom to port around the map as TF and put pressure. But they do a really good job here, actually, and a good adaptation of, since Lucian is just freezing the top wave, of sending the bot lane mid and getting rid of the pinks and just clearing vision to make sure that TF doesn't have as much pressure on everyone. And they also take the blue buff here. And Rush is just clearing his bot side jungle. Rush starts heading top, but because they know that their blue's just gone, he starts heading towards TSM's blue buff. Over here, Sven is just recalling for some AP. He had a lot of gold buying and coming over, and there's nothing much that Beard can do about this invade. He just shoves in mid, makes Jensen lose maybe like 2-3 CS. Overall, though, like, we can see a huge lead building out for Balls. He's 30 CS up as Gangplank on a Poppy, and this is a pretty big problem for TSM already because Balls' TP is almost up by now, and they didn't do anything with the early game. So even though C9 screwed up that badly early, TSM wasn't able to get any advantages off of that. So pretty big misplay. Everything's pretty standard right now. Haunter has 1,000 golden pockets since there was such a big wave pushing up from when GP was freezing. So he should probably back soon. He just wants to push out this wave and recall, but they're just laning right now. And again, they're not really being proactive. They're not putting any pressure, no ganks or anything on TSM side, whereas Rush is already coming over. Double does a good job here of pulling Alistar out and wasting their summoners, but Haunter TP's in so late when Double has already pulled Alistar out and flashed out. So Haunter just is completely by himself, wastes both summoners, and just dies. GP is still coming in too, but you can see that TSM wanted to bring everyone top to try and counter the global pressure that C9 has with Elise and Azir roaming up top, but they're just not going to get there as fast as Rush or Bjergsen is if C9 is the one initiating. And definitely what they should have done here is either they should have been ready to move earlier and match that pressure and match the rotation, or they should have just adapted and canceled Haunter's TP afterwards because Double and Yellow Star is already out. What they do at that point is they just have to give up top tier and they just have to shove mid with Azir and Elise, which I think is like an acceptable trade because Azir, like, this is already the second time now that you see Beard trying to come up top after Jensen has either TP'd or ulted in on Double and Yellow Star, but he's not getting anything out of it. If he just constantly applied pressure mid, got the turret, got the gold and kept his mid turret up, then they could TSM would maybe have something to do in this game or something to play off of. And Double just stays way too long here. They know he doesn't have flash. Jensen does a good flash gold card. And even Yellow Star is dead here. So that's a 0 for 3 trade. And probably top turret here. And Bjergsen's again back mid, but he doesn't shove it in fast enough for Jensen to lose much because Jensen's already recalled. Balls goes bot, where there's a huge wave waiting for him, while Hanser is already down like a ton of CS. So, yeah, this is just Hanser dying, GP coming in, which was okay. He was there for the numbers advantage. Good play by High, getting Yellow Star. He flashed too late. After he's tagged with the Q and gets ulted by Braum, he's dead. So at this point, TSM's down 3,000 gold at a little over 10 minutes, which is just really bad. Kindred already has her Devourer, and C9 does really well here. Sven, just you can see how in just a 1v1, Elise is able to actually put a ton of pressure on Kindred, despite Kindred having probably a little bit more gold. And he's going to kill. He almost gets Rush to 0, but Rush, all he has to do is ult, and High is there to back him up. They get a stack for Kindred and the Scuttle for Devourer stacks, and they get dragged. TSM has no response to it, really. Yellow Star, you can see, is just placing a few wards down in the topside jungle. They might be prepping something to try and get Jensen, but they don't really have anything to do here. Double pushed out top, but the huge wave is just going to get picked up by Sneaky. Hanser is still laning against Balls, and it's just at a huge disadvantage, 40 CS down. So TSM has to try and make a play, and what they should be doing is taking bot turret. You can see it's getting pinged over and over again, probably by Hanser or someone, but this is what I don't understand. They send, or Double and Yellow Star are heading mid again to try and maybe pull something off on Jensen. Which is good because TF has teleport and ult up right now, but their moves are pretty telegraphed right here. And they're walking over wards. They're just basically not doing anything. And here, actually, they have to burn Kalista ult for nothing. Just because Yellow Star would have taken too much damage there. And they start the Rift Herald, which not, like, when you're behind, I don't think you should be going for the Rift Herald unless everyone on the map is on the bot side on the other team. They leave Sen here to finish it off, but I presume that they leave Sen here because he's the only one with flash, so he can just take it, or he can just finish it and then flash out. But Yellow and Double Lift are still here, and they engage on Sneaky, even though Jensen has his ult, and will come up as quickly as Bjergsen. And neither top laner has TP up, but Balls has his ult, so he can just drop it. So if you look, Double just gets completely destroyed. Sven tries to flash and finish off Sneaky, isn't able to do it. They're just all dead, and it's another 3 for 0. So again, if you look at what TSM's doing, it's actually not that bad, right? They're trying to put the pressure on the global, which is like very well-known strategy. Go to the source of the global, but they're not getting anything out of it. They are clearing some vision, but then they started Rift Herald for no reason. Weren't able to finish it off properly, or they finished it, but they couldn't pick it up. and they just suffered a lot in terms of pressure, in terms of kills, and they also are taking a lot of damage on mid turret, which is bad because Azir just wants to be pressuring mid, wants to keep his turret up, and they just seem very desperate to do something here. Which is understandable because they're already down a bunch of gold and they know that, but these aren't probably not the kinds of plays you want to be going for. Rift Herald gives you a little bit of pressure, but it doesn't give you the gold that you need to get back into the game, to get your items and everything. They should have just sent double it. They should just be sending double and yellow bot side, and making sure that they don't get ported on or 5-man, and trying to just trade turrets. But at this point, they're down 2 turrets because C9 did get mid after that, because Bjergsen's just 0, 0, and 0. He can't do anything to trade. And you actually see TSM trying to pressure bot side now, but it's too late because C9 is just so ahead that they can go where TSM is going and just not have to make those kinds of sacrifices. They don't have to give anything up at this point. And here, TSM again wants to put pressure on Jensen, and so they're waiting here, but Jensen's going to do Wolves, playing far back, as he should. Hanser's caught up a bit in the 1v1, but Balls has just been so much more useful, has 100% kill participation. Double walks into lane with his ult, and doesn't get anything out of it, unfortunately. They are taking the mid turret though, which is fine, but GP ult, again, just clears that whole wave, and ooh. Yeah. Sven just ends up getting picked off by Flash Gold card. He has to repel it, otherwise he just gets stunned, but he has nowhere to drop afterwards. So they do take a turret, but they drop a kill for it, and they take some more damage on their second turret. They're down 6,000 gold at 17 minutes, which is a huge deficit. And Rush is just able to stack up his... as Kindred, he's able to get further and further ahead with Devourer. And C9 is taking all their top jungle, clearing out vision, and sending 5 people up top. And meanwhile, Double is just going bot, trying to get something, but he's not going to be able to push fast enough. Hanser only hits 1 person out, where he probably could have hit... he should have saved it for the next wave. Bjerg is a little bit slow to come up, right here. And there's not much they can do here, they're just going to give up that turret. Double is still pushing bot, but Jensen and Balls both have TP up right now, so he's probably not going to get the turret. Yep, so that is TF, I think this is support spot, because he will have his ult up soon, so his teleport is less valuable. And TSM traded 1 turret for nothing. Now they're down 7,000 gold because each turret is like 1,000. And they're getting further and further behind. C9 is probably going to just look to continue to press their advantages by invading and taking their taking TSM's jungle and also getting objectives like Dragon. And at this point, there's not too much that TSM can do. They've fallen so behind versus global composition that can just constantly make plays, constantly put pressure, and constantly force TSM to get desperate. And Ball steals away the blue buff, which is super unlucky. Again, they go for the Rift Herald because they have nothing else to do, but if you look right here, you can already see C9 shoving mid lane with 3 people. All these people are, everyone on TSM is recalling, but they're just so far away. They're not gonna get there in time. You can see that TSM tried to make specific plays with the bot lane heading mid, trying to put pressure on TF, but they made a couple of pretty bad mistakes. They didn't utilize Haunter's TP advantage early game. They didn't. They played the 5v5 really poorly because they didn't realize that the team composition is just straight up worse than C9 when it comes to rotating around the map really early in the game. Here, they just go for a play in high. High doesn't get anything off there, so... But at this point, it doesn't really matter. One kill for nothing is just a... really won't put TSM back into the game. Just Shane CC'd. He probably just shouldn't be that far up, though. And it's just super sad because this whole game, C9's bot turret is just still there and has been a constant, just free gold on the map that TSM hasn't been able to take. They're sending everyone top again for, I don't know, just to make sure that they don't take Baron, which makes sense, but Rush just walks up and clears the Baron vision for TSM because he's just so much stronger than everyone on their team. And it doesn't matter how, right here, there's not, Haunter's just way too far up trying to get CS and pushing that mid, but when you get to Twisted Fate like that, they don't have enough vision for it, but you have to expect it. It's a lose-lose, though, for TSM at this point. If Haunter doesn't farm, then they're just going to fall behind in gold naturally. And you can see that Bjerg has been farming the whole game. He's like up in CS, but there's nothing that he can do if his team falls behind this much because just there's so much damage from Gangplank, Kindred, Lucian that even if he just stands in a team fight and DPSs, he's going to get killed super easily. So Jensen did his job better in terms of rotating. Bjergsen didn't push mid lane in hard enough. And here they're just going for a play on balls, but they just don't have enough damage for him. Even if he gets cocooned, he just heals it up. And Rush is 3 levels up on Svenskeren as Kindred versus Elise. So he just runs in, 2-shots him. And Bjerg shoves Rush out of his respite, but 1-4-4. And Haunter just has to cancel his TP because he's just free death. Since C9 has everyone on the map here, they just take Baron real quick, and they're already up 10 gold before they do this. This will probably extend their lead to, another couple thousand gold. And Haunter finally gets the bot lane turret. Can't push much more because he doesn't have a big wave. They have Baron empowered recall. Baron empowered recall, so they'll be back soon. We already saw all of this. One thing that's interesting is, let's go back a bit. I'm not sure why Yellow's not with Elise and Doublelift when they're going for it. So he starts walking up towards them, but then he starts trying going around. But this means that Doublelift just can't ult him, throw it in, and doesn't get any of the extra damage off. So this whole time, Kindred is just, Kalista is just too far away from Alistar. And again, I think Kalista's, or just statistically, Kalista's a lot weaker this patch, and she has her strengths, but in these team fights, teams that play Kalista need to make sure that the support and the AD carry are together at all times. Otherwise, they're just missing out on so much of Kalista's strengths. Let me see how balls gets cut out here. Just a little bit too far up. But when you're this far ahead, again, like usually losing teams, all they can do is go for a kill trade here and there. Uh, but it means nothing in face of the team goal that you can get taking all these turrets. They pick up high, but everyone is super low on their team. And Sneaky, wow, it's just going off. Red buff kills his ear, keeps going, finishes off Haunter. Nice. So I think the game should be over after this. They just push in. But yeah, you can see that this was a very one-sided game after the mistakes that TSM made at the beginning. And it was just a really rough game. But as a viewer, when we see these games, it's really important because it's a best of. We have to consider what is the future of the series, right? What is going to happen from here on out? This was a really one-sided game because of Cloud9's composition, and I did note that I didn't really like TSM's draft. I think they got a lot of important picks, but they didn't. They could have maybe gotten a few better matchups for their laners, particularly Bjergsen. But it wasn't really the pick and ban that lost them the game. It was their misplays and their just lack of coordination. And you can actually see that how TSM wants to play the game, right? They want to group together and like pressure Jensen in the mid lane with the bot lane. And when bot lane is getting pressured, Bjergsen tried to go up and help them, but every single time he was just too late, and they couldn't respond to how quick C9 pulled the trigger on a lot of these engages and a lot of these dives. And so either moving forward, Bjergsen needs to just continue pressuring mid and be willing to sacrifice and give a trade-off, and because he's doing nothing in the time that he tries to roam up top or that he tries to help his team, or TSM has to make sure that they are coordinated. They tell Haunter not to finish the TP, or they should be going for. They need to use the TP discrepancy when Balls doesn't have it and Haunter does to try and make some more early game plays. Also, Sven just didn't since Garen just didn't put enough pressure on Balls, who I think they could have because they both had flashes and didn't really know exactly where to be. He was just constantly responding to where Rush was, and Rush was just kept going top and putting pressure there. But I think if you get a Poppy ahead versus a GP and make that a threat, then it would have been a very different game, very different turn of events. They also didn't prioritize turret taking and the objectives well enough. So I'm excited to see how TSM adapts and how they move forward through the series. Thank you for watching, and please check out the rest of the VOD reviews that I do for this particular series between C9 versus TSM in the quarterfinals. Thanks again.